Hello, I'm Johnny Engineer, Google for Bank Fighter Extraordinaire, and today's lesson is going to be on banking systems engineering called the big lie of economics. We're going to derive the miracle equation which explains how they're scamming you and keeping you poor. Now, all economics is based on the big lie, which says that raising interest rates fights inflation. My miracle equation proves that raising interest rates causes inflation, and that's what we're going to figure out today. Now, mortgage comes from the French, Latin, mort, meaning death, and gage, meaning gamble. And here's what happens. Everybody borrows 10, and they all promise to bring back 11. But the bankers only printed 10. So, Keynes likened it to musical chairs, where at the end of the game, everybody knows that someone's going to be left out and will get knocked out of the game. Well, that's how the mortgage, death, gamble works in finance too. So now we're going to go over the derivation of the very simple equation. Here it is. Bankers create the money supply when they make loans. So looking at the third column, the algebra, you'll see that producers are forced to gamble by borrowing the newly created principal to pay for their production costs, P, and then inflating their prices to recuperate both the principal and the non-created interest, P plus I, from their sales. Because total goods priced at P plus I can never be sold when consumers only have P dollars available, a minimum amount of goods must remain unsold, and a minimum number of producers must fail and suffer foreclosure. So, the production costs are P. The production prices, equal to the debt, is P plus I. The purchasable value, the survivors, is P over P plus I, and the unpurchasable portion is I over P plus I, which some media have called Turmel's miracle equation because it explains how many guys get knocked out of the game, how much employment will be generated by that particular interest rate or death rate. Here's a little game to demonstrate the death gamble to your friends. Get them all to put up their watch as collateral, say 5 friends. Lend them all 100 matchsticks or 100 chips or 100 marbles. Doesn't matter what the medium is you're going to demonstrate the inflation and the unemployment you're going to create. But lend them all 100, taking a look at the first column. And then say at the end of the game you're going to have to all pay me back $1.25, 125. All 5 of you. So now, in the economy, what producers do is they borrow the principal, then they use their money to produce goods, which they're going to sell. So in this case, I'd go up to the friends and I'd say, okay, now, here's the economic token for food. I want you to now use your money to buy it and spend it and invest it in creating that food token you're now going to put up for sale. To the second person, here's a fuel token, which you are going to try and put up for sale, but now spend your 10 into the economy, and now you've got a fuel token. And everybody spends their 10 into the economic pool, and they all receive a product they're going to put on their shelves and try and sell. So basically, everybody borrowed 10, spent it to produce, everybody inflated their prices to 11, because that's the minimum debt, for the price tags on the shelves, and now it's up to the economy to decide who's going to sell and who won't in this game of musical chairs. So I use the flip of a coin as a fair gamble to model this thing. And if it was a large pool of people with hundreds of people playing the game, I would say, okay, everybody who's in the fuel business, flip a coin. All right, all the winners come forward. You've sold your stuff. Put in your token in the pool and take out your 11. Then I would have everybody who offers clothing flip and see who the economy chooses, and all the guys who win, come on, put in your token and take out 11. And through this, you would eventually knock half the people out, then do it again, and do it again, until at the end of the game, you're going to find out that only 9 guys out of 10 can come up with 11 tokens. Then the economic pool runs empty, and the 10th guy gets squeezed out of his death gamble mortgage. And that is what happens in the economy. All businesses borrow the principal, new money, to pay for their production, and then they all inflate their prices to principal plus interest, and then they all try and recoup the 125, and at the end of the game, 4 of your friends have 125 and their watch is back, and your 5th friend gets knocked out of the game. That's how it works on Interest Island. Now we have to explain how it would work on No Interest Island, on Service Charge Only Island. Now in this case, we'll use a bank of same bank, matchsticks, except everybody now puts up their watch as collateral, and they all borrow 11 or 110 matchsticks. Now, everybody immediately pays me, the banker, my 10 out of the matchsticks that were created, so I got paid. And then they use the same 10 they produced their goods with last time on Interest Island, and they spend it to produce their goods. Except now, when they try and recuperate 110, all of them, not only is the original principal in circulation, but my banker's fee is in circulation so that I can buy it too, and they can recuperate the whole 11 and settle all their debt and be ready to start over next year. So that's the difference between how interest works and how pure service charge works. Recap. A contract bearing interest, a mortgage is its name, can be translated from the French to see the total game. The word for mort is death, which is a clue we all should heed. The word for gage is gamble, and a deadly bet indeed. The mortgage is the plight of all. Death gamble it does maim. The debt is always bigger than the money in the game. Game theory. The chips can be inflated too and lose some equity. Just charge a little interest and plainly you will see. If 10 of you all pledge your watch to borrow 10 chips each, 11 chips is due from all, a mortgage all can't reach. 100 chips is all you have for principal you got, but no more chips for interest. Those chips were given naught. The principal is P, the debt has grown to P plus I. The debt has grown with interest, so some of you will die. The number of survivors is P over P plus I. The ratio of losers is I over P plus I. This shows I over P plus I is debt you cannot sate. The confiscation of your watches happens at this rate. Less watches backing up the chips drives value down for sure. We have induced inflation in poker chips that were once so pure. The number of people knocked into foreclosure is the number of people who have their collateral confiscated. Though we are led to believe that inflation is caused by an increase in money chasing the goods, shift A, actually it's caused by a decrease in the collateral backing up the money, shift B, due to foreclosures. Though both inflation shifts feel the same, the miracle equation shows inflation is not the inverse function of the interest rate. It is the direct function of the interest rate, exposing the big lie that interest fights inflation. Every economist in the world has been taught that inflation is shift A. No economics curriculum mentions the other possibility, shift B. This is not accidental. But when most people who've not been conditioned by economic studies are asked whether prices will go up or down when interest rates are raised, they're quick to agree that a merchant must pass on increased interest costs by raising prices. And yet very few notice that this logical conclusion, that interest is passed on in higher prices, is in direct contradiction to the big lie, which is repeated over and over in all our media and economics textbooks, that interest will fight inflation. So, though we're told that interest does fight inflation true, I say that is the biggest lie, if others only knew. The number of you seize the pun goes up with interest. Inflation that results is clearly seen with simple test. You're told inflation's volume of the money on the rise. Inflation's really loss of assets, that I emphasize. Inflation isn't too much cash to chase what we produced. By seizures, money chases stock of merchandise reduced. And though more money or less goods are shifts that feel the same, the seizure of collateral's the shift we have to blame. So by the use of interest, the money does inflate, and by its abolition, money can be steady state. So almost all monetary reformers get the inflation shift wrong, and they will never come to the solution that more money can pay off the excess debt, because they think more money will cause inflation. Shift A. Ron Paul, love the man, but he's a dinosaur when it comes to money. There should not be any worry about too much money when the problem is too much foreclosed collateral. So, that's the big lie of economics explained by Johnny Engineer Turmel's miracle equation.